Bust the Move 2 released in American and Japanese arcades in 1995 with later ports to the PS1, Sega Saturn, Game Boy, N64 and PC. And today I'll be talking about the PS1 version of the game, and I do also own the N64 version, but the music and sound effects in that version of the game are severely inferior due to the limitations of the cartridge format it's on, but other than that they're basically the same. I don't think I'm the only one to have very fond memories of this absolute classic puzzle game. Whenever I talk to anyone about the PS1 it will eventually come up in the same breath as classics such as Tekken, Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon. I definitely think it's up there in the legendary tier of puzzle games with Tetris and Puyo Pop. I always thought it was a shame that the other games in the series can't hold a candle to this classic. There's a slew of sequels that never really hit what made this game great. They all overcomplicate the formula in my personal opinion. Bust the Move 2's gameplay is silky smooth puzzle gaming at its very best. You're doing the usual puzzle game thing of matching things together, but it's the way that it's executed that makes it so great. You control the cute little dragon thing from Puzzle Bobble in his mission from God to match all the bubbles together. He has a little ship steering wheel thing that he shoots bubbles out of, and like in Tetris you get to know what bubble is coming after the one you currently have loaded, and that's it. Much like your modern match-free Candy Crush type game, if you match 3 bubbles of the same colour or more, those bubbles will be deleted from the screen and anything that was connected to those popped bubbles will drop off as well. There's also different types of bubbles that aren't your usual coloured bubbles. There's a shiny star bubble that will take away every other bubble of the colour you shoot at it, or vice versa. And also sometimes you've got these octagon shaped things that you can only get rid of by knocking them off of whatever they're connected to. Depending on what mode in the game you're playing, you'll either be playing against an opponent or playing by yourself. If you're against an opponent, everything you manage to get out of your side of the screen that isn't a simple 3 bubble combo will be dropped onto your opponent's side of the screen. The more stuff you manage to get in one go, the more trouble it will be for your opponent. A lot of the time it can really come down to luck if you're going to survive or not, as sometimes you'll have one bit of the screen where you're near death and your opponent's bubbles will just by the luck of the draw randomly happen to hit you in that one spot that can kill you. But that randomness is definitely part of the fun of the game. One of my favourite strategies is to find 2 bubbles of the same colour and pile all my junk on that link till it's piled up high and then drop it on the enemy. The control of your weird bubble shooting ship steering wheel is spot on, and when you really get into the zone you just space out shooting bubbles in this hypnotic rhythm. Whenever you make a bad shot you always feel like it's your fault and not the game's fault, which is a thing many games don't manage to nail down. There's an arcade mode where you take on all the different characters in the game, working your way through them all with a final 2-phase boss battle waiting for you at the end. All the different enemies are all interesting in their own different ways, and it definitely makes you want to push through to see what weird creature you're going to get to fight next. But the enemy in this mode that was a big source of childhood trauma for me was what me and my mum used to call Dee Dee, the third enemy in the game. We called her this because when she gets a big combo on you, she'll scream this noise. And she also kinda reminded us of Dee Dee from Dexter's Laboratory for some reason. She's definitely a big difficulty spike. The first 2 enemies lull you into a false sense of security with how easy they are. Then BAM! Here's Dee Dee to mess up your day. My mother, who I used to play this game with a lot, and still do when she comes over, is a sweet lady who barely ever swears, but as soon as she plays against Dee Dee, you'd assume a drunk sailor was in the room. I can only guess as to why Dee Dee is so hard, probably because it's a port of an arcade game and they wanted your hard-earned cash. But to be honest with you, most of the other enemies in the game aren't really as much of a consistent challenge as Dee Dee. I mean, you might get the odd run where one enemy might steamroller you by a bit of luck, but even the final bosses aren't nothing compared to her. But this is probably my favourite mode in the game, as it's just challenging enough and not so easy that it's boring. I always love trying to beat my high scores, and having 3 difficulties always keeps me coming back. As you go through the arcade mode you get points for pulling off big combos and for how fast you manage to beat your enemies, but if you die your score resets, so if you want a high score you'll need to do the whole thing on 1 credit. There's also a puzzle mode where instead of taking on opponents you are given a screen of bubbles that you need to take out before the screen crushes your little dragon, or you just straight up kill yourself through bad shots. In this mode, after you complete a set of screens, you go to a map screen where you can decide where you want to go next. Each area has a different set of screens which can help make each run be a bit different. This mode is definitely a lot more cerebral than the arcade mode, and in my house there was always a challenge to see who could top the high scores in this mode for bragging rights. And the final mode in the game is its multiplayer mode where you and one other person can go head to head just like in the arcade mode. This is always fun and a surefire way to get your mother swearing like a sailor on shore leave. Bust the Move 2's music is absolutely fantastic. It covers many different themes, but a lot of it does kind of sound like weird synthy sailor music, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes when I'm doing stuff, I'll just start humming some of the music from this game. Pretty much all the tracks are damn catchy. The graphics are very bright and colourful, and all the different characters in the game are very well animated. Each of them has their own moods based on how well the current battle is going for them, and it's always goddamn charming. I think its aesthetic has aged a lot better than the polygon-based games at the time. I think at this point most people who are even remotely into video games will probably have already played this classic. But for anyone who hasn't played it, you should. Even if you really aren't a fan of puzzle games, because like Tetris, it's just that goddamn good. I mean, hell, lots of people in my life who don't even like video games enjoy this game. So if that doesn't tell you how good it is, I don't know what will. Basically, what I'm saying is, everyone should play this game. It's amazing. I'm definitely not biased, I swear. Alright, maybe a little bit.